Part 9. Accidents. They arrived at the destination about 5 hours later. Before they put all their stuff into the boat, with which they would be brought to the small islands that they would be staying on for the next 10 days, they bought a lot of food and water so they could really stay on their own most of the time. When the owner of the small cabin helped them into the boat and brought them over to the new vacation home, Gabriel and Adrian eyed the conserved food and frozen meat with suspicion. "I really hope you know what to do with those," the teenager said to Natalie, a little fear springing in his voice. But the young woman smiled at him. "Of course I know. I was pretty sure that neither of you are able to cook, and if I couldn't either, I would have never chosen a hut where we have to make our own food. So don't be scared, Adrian. I might not be able to do specialities like your old chef, but I can cook the most common things, like noodles with sauce, all sorts of vegetables, steak, stew, and so on. And my bouillabaisse is to die for." She tried to calm him. "That's great. So we're going to live like a real family over this whole time," he exclaimed happily. "Yes, son, we will be a real family, at least for the upcoming almost 2 weeks," Gabriel said with a careful smile at Natalie. The assistant looked at him hesitantly, then nodded and replied, "Yeah, a real family." Turning her head to not being forced to look at him, she sighed. A few minutes later they arrived at the small landing where the older man, who had steered the boat, helped them unload and then turned his small ship to get back to his own family. "Have fun," he said before he went off. "There is a dinghy with a motor if you might have any trouble and need to get to the mainland quickly. But usually you won't need it. Goodbye. See you in 10 days. And with that he left. The 2 adults and the boy loaded themselves with as much of the luggage as they could carry at once and started the short walk up a small hill to the wooden cabin. They were pleasantly surprised because this seemed by far more comfortable than they had expected. Adrian entered at first and immediately claimed the smaller room with the bunk beds for himself, leaving only the larger room with a double bed for his father and Natalie. To their questions what he was thinking, when he told them they could share the bed, he replied with dark red ears, "Well, my plan was getting you as close as possible until you notice that you are meant for each other, and maybe by the time we'll get back I'll already be about to have a little sibling." Then he quickly left the cabin and ran outside to explore the beach and the surrounding nature, leaving the grown-ups back on their own, thunderstruck. Natalie cleared her throat and looked around in the main room, that combined kitchen, dining table, and a large sofa. Then she said, I can just sleep on this couch, and you can have the bed. I don't really care." He shook his head. "There is no way I'm letting you sleep on the sofa. Those 2 beds are by far big enough for us, and if you insist that one of us should be sleeping on that sofa, it will be me. Do you hear me? Even if I sound old-fashioned, I won't let you sleep on that thing. But no buts. There is no way to change my mind. Do you hear me?" he told her sternly. "Fine, the bed it is then, because I won't let you sleep on that couch either. And now let's just unpack our things. The weather forecast said there's going to be a storm for the next 2 days, and I would like to go swimming and get some tan before we are forced to stay inside most of the time. If you really want to be the old-fashioned gentleman, then you could go back to the landing and get the rest of the luggage," Natalie suggested with a smirk. "At your service, Mademoiselle Zoncoeur," he replied, and bowed deeply, making her blush instantly. Then they both laughed, and Natalie turned around to take the frozen things into the freezer, the fresh food into the fridge, and the cans and packets onto the shelf of a small storage closet. When Gabriel returned, she had already started to cook their lunch, a huge pot with rice, vegetables, and stiff tomatoes. The designer looked guilty, and now the young woman asked, "What happened? Did you do anything that I wouldn't approve of? You look as if I was going to kill you if I did find out," she asked in a demanding tone. Gabriel looked past her out of the window behind the counter she was standing in front of. Then he took a deep breath and said, "I dropped something, and it fell into the water. I got it out before it could sink, but, well, you should maybe take a look. I hope I didn't do any harm. It really was an accident." Natalie immediately let go of the cooking spoon and followed him outside. When she saw the small bag he had pulled out of the water, she paled and let herself fall on her knees right in front of it, immediately pulling at the zipper to get it open. Then she reached inside and took out the package with her medication, to then hide her face in her palms and mutter to herself, "This is bad. This is really, really bad. I should have gone myself." "What's so bad? Maybe we can find another solution," Gabriel asked worriedly and laid an arm around her shoulders as he crouched down beside her. But Nathalie shook her head. "There's only one solution, and that would mean me going back to my doctor to get a new prescription and a new package. But that wouldn't just spoil yours and Adrian's vacation. It's only possible if I leave right away with that dinghy or try to call our landlord, but it would also mean I won't be able to join you here before that storm that is about to hit the coast is over. You will be safe here, don't worry, but I can't come back until Friday," she explained sadly. He watched her with compassion. "Do you really need that medication so urgently?" he uttered. Nathalie laughed bitterly. "Believe me, I do," she spat, and to herself she mumbled, "You can thank your beloved wife for that."